When looking at the 2024 playoffs, by far the most entertaining series we've had is Minnesota versus Denver. And I wouldn't say it's really for the play on the court. I mean, there's been some big performances, big time games, but really no great fourth quarter action, as this series has featured a ton of blowouts. But why I find this series so fascinating and intriguing is the contrast in styles and the contrast in superstars. And as someone who likes both these teams, both their superstar players, kind of in an odd spot. Because yes, the Timberwolves, you want to see them succeed, win, and Edwards at 22 get over the hump. But on the flip side, Jokic, the narratives he deals with, his team deals with. I just want to see the media once again get proven wrong and eat humble pie. As in talking about the media, this series specifically, they've been bipolar on really all fronts. Denver loses game 1 at home. What's the narrative? Well, Jokic not the best player in the world, not the MVP. Denver loses game 2 also at home. What's the mainstream narrative? Well, Denver's championship last year was weak, that runs in question, and the competition has been garbage. After those first 2 games in the media, they were happier than Josh Giddey at a middle school, and salivating over the fact Jokic could be swept 4-0. Now, what happens game 3 and game 4? Denver responds, they bounce back, and you have guys like Stephen A. Smith going under their desk, hiding after predicting a sweep. That's how bad it was. Now, game 5, Jokic, all-time great performance, 40 points, 13 assists, 7 boards, 0 turnovers. After that game, what's the mainstream narrative? Well, Jokic, he's good, but Rudy Gobert just absolutely awful, and Minnesota is down 3-2.
And at some point, Rudy Gobert got to get tired of people calling them out like myself. He cannot be a defensive liability.
MVP versus Defensive Player of the Year, meaning you're supposed to be the best of the best one-on-one guy.
No, you're not.
How about this? We sit here breaking down Cat having to stop Joker, who's a center, and the Defensive Player of the Year is on your team and he is center. Very interesting.
Does he have to go up against you and exhibit such a level of abuse that it leaves us scratching our head as to how you got named the Defensive Player of the Year?
I don't mean to be harsh right here, but if you watch these first 6 games of this series, and your takeaway was Rudy Gobert was the problem, he's the scapegoat, your basketball intellect might be in question. As you watch Denver the past 5 years, watch Jokic the past 5 years, this is what he does to everybody. And seeing Draymond, Gilbert, Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, the usual suspects blaming Gobert for the team losing, it makes you wonder, is there some kind of memo mainstream narrative that gets pushed by all these guys at once? Because looking at those figures, what are the odds all those guys are anti-Jokic, but also anti-Gobert when Jokic is playing well? And right here in this video, I'm going to do one thing I swore I'd never do, and that's defend Rudy Gobert. And look, Gobert, he's 7 foot tall, he's French, no offensive game, and has really no fan base. If you're looking for a guy to blame, Rudy Gobert, the perfect scapegoat. And I'm not saying Rudy in this series is playing great, a prime Dikembe Mutombo, but Rudy Gobert specifically isn't the reason this series went 7, and why Minnesota could lose that game 7. As again, looking at Jokic at his peak in his prime, nobody's stopping this guy one-on-one, or really just stopping him in general. But the thing is, people rather scapegoat Rudy Gobert than give Jokic his due credit for what he's doing on the offensive end. And going back to 2020, that year's West Finals Nuggets vs. Lakers, it's kind of been mythologized, put in a rare air, as the series Jokic was shut down and stopped. And who do they credit for that? Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and a little bit of LeBron James. If you go back and watch the film, it wasn't one big on Joker exclusively. They'd have Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, yes, guarding Jokic, but behind him at the rim, a Dwight Howard, JaVale, even LeBron. I mean, it's a pretty good strategy to overload the paint and show Jokic bodies at every single turn. But even with that being said, the narrative for this series of Jokic was somehow stopped and shut down, or even just limited by Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, is complete nonsense. Jokic versus Davis in this series, their individual matchups when he was guarding him. Jokic, 23 points, 9 of 16 shooting. Now, Dwight guarding Jokic, 26 points, 8 of 16 shooting. So Jokic versus both those guys who are tag teaming him, and showing him bodies every single play, he still dominated and shot above 50%. And keep in mind, 2020, before the MVPs, the championships, and with a roster that was completely different than 2023 or 2024. Now, looking at that 2020 series, of course, the narrative was that the Joker was shut down, he was stopped, and that's why LA won the series, which of course is a false narrative, not true. But looking at Gobert vs. Jokic one-on-one individual defense, the Joker in this series, yes, has 30 points, but shooting-wise, 11 of 28. And Minnesota, much like LA, they got a big front court and big bodies, Karl Towns, Gobert, and even Naz Reid. They got some big guys. And comparing Gobert this series versus Anthony Davis in the first round versus Jokic, the numbers are just diabolical. Jokic versus Anthony Davis, nearly 70 points when he's matched up against him on above 50% shooting. And here's the catch. Am I going to blame Anthony Davis for bad defense, not shutting Jokic down? Of course not, because the Joker is the Joker. And that's the point we're getting to. Jokic's overall offensive game is damn near unstoppable. You have one great big, two great bigs, even three great big men. You're not stopping the Joker. Too great of a scorer, post player, and a passer out of double teams. And one more thing I do want to debunk is that Gobert in these playoffs, his bad defensive play, it somehow proves he shouldn't have won the Defensive Player of the Year. And look, regardless of who you think should have won, the playoffs alone don't prove that. As looking at Jokic vs. Gobert once again, 30 points on sub 40% shooting. Anthony Davis, nearly 70 points, 50% shooting. Bam Adebayo, the 23 finals, Jokic nearly 70 points again on 57% shooting. And even looking at this year in the regular season, Wembanyama vs. Jokic, the numbers are absurd, as the Joker, on 40 shot attempts, shot above 60%. And those four guys right there, Gobert, Davis, Bam, and Wemby, all top four in defensive player voting this season. Trying to make Gobert the scapegoat for the series is one of the worst narratives I've ever seen. It's like getting mad at Dan Marley 93 for letting MJ score 41 points. I mean, it's a prime MJ. It's like bashing Shane Battier in 09 for letting Kobe go off in the fourth quarters. He's Kobe Bryant, he's gonna do that. And nowadays in 2024, the offensively empowered era we're in, someone like Jokic is gonna get his numbers and get his points on great efficiency. And looking at the opposite end of the spectrum, when it comes to the blame game, a lot of pro-Denver fans, pro-Jokic fans are blaming Jamal Murray for this series going 7 games. And look, I get it, Murray in this series hasn't shot great. In Game 6, a complete dud, 4 of 18 shooting. But putting all this on Murray is a tad bit unfair. As Nikola Jokic, being the leader he is, the superstar he is, his job coming into a game, bring energy, bring leadership, and set the tone early. As if Jokic plays good early, trickles down to the role players, the other stars, guys like MPJ, Aaron Gordon, and especially Jamal Murray. Jokic in Game 6 versus the Timberwolves, kind of lethargic, mid-first quarter really faded, and didn't set the tone like I thought he would. Compared to someone like Anthony Edwards, who had 14 points, came out of the gate blazing, was playing the passing lanes, offense, defense, and got the crowd going, and never looked back. Edwards in that first quarter of Game 6, it was a carbon copy of Game 1. As of course, Game 1 in Denver, 16 points, tons of energy, got a big lead, and never looked back. If you're a superstar player, your job, set the tone early. Jokic in Game 6 just didn't do that. And of course, this video is being made before Game 7, but my prediction still stands. I think Denver yet again will make the Western Conference Finals. And I'm not going to be a complete idiot, Stephen A. Smith, and change my pick mid-series once it's over, it's done with, and Minnesota can't win. Because look, they can win Game 7, I have no doubts about that. As when it comes to Denver in this year's postseason, they're playing with fire in a lot of these games. And Lakers, they weren't a good enough team to compete with them, but even then, kind of toying with them, getting down massive deficits, having to come back, and Jamal Murray hitting hero-like shots to save their season. If you keep playing with fire like that, at some point it's going to bite you in the butt. Will it be Game 7? I don't think so. But versus a team like Boston in the finals, who has depth, length, and superstars, then it could bite you in the butt. So that right there is the end of the video. And once again, Rudy Gobert, the scapegoat for the series, primarily because people don't give Jokic credit for how dominant he is as an offensive force. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.